Recording in progress.
3, 4, 5. We have a quorum. Are you set, Cassidy, or not? Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started. We're a little bit after 7. If the counselors will take seats and the audience will be a little bit quiet, we're going to get underway. Welcome people who are still walking in. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee. We're starting, gentlemen. We're underway. Thank you. Hush, please. We're starting a little teeny bit late even. So exciting to have so many people all in here. The first couple of items will go relatively quickly, I believe. We need to approve some Class 2 auto dealer licenses. Before that, I'm going to introduce who's here. I'm Andrea Kelly. I'm the chair of the Land Use Committee. Tonight with us in the chamber, we have members of the Land Use Committee, Tariq Lucas from Ward 2, who's the vice chair, Allison Leary from Ward 1, Randy Block from Ward 4, Stephen Farrell from Ward 8. Let's see, who else do we have online? Andrea Downs from Ward 5. Do you see anyone else, Cassidy, from the committee? I know we have a few absences tonight. I'll continue to introduce people as they come. We also have in the chamber former land use chair Rick Lipoff, current counselor from Ward 8. We are joined tonight too by the Planning and Development Board because one of the projects that we're talking about has a zone change application, and they're here to listen and weigh in on that. Joining us now, also not on the committee but a counselor, is Julia Malachy. We have some terrific members of staff with us. First, I'll start with Cassidy Flynn, who's our clerk. Katie Wewell from the planning department. I think we will be joined perhaps by another planner or two and someone from the law department later. Let me just see if I see Peter Doringer online. Is he part of you? But online tonight, he's part of the Planning and Development Board. And Amy Dane, who is vice or co-chair of the vice chair of the Planning and Development Board. Thank you all for joining us, and then lots of members of the public. Again, I will try and remember to, Pam Wright is joining us online, a counselor, not a member of the committee. So again, let's get started with these Class 2 auto dealer licenses. The first one is number 241-25. They are Atlantic Car Connect on Grove Street is applying for a license. Our charge here is pretty minimal. We just check in with the clerk who will have checked that everything is in order, all fees are paid up, and there's nothing untoward. So Cassidy, you want to give us a report on that?
Yes, so all fees have been paid, and this has been checked by our Treasury Department and our Police Department.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Maybe the Ward 4 counselor might want to make a motion on this one. Counselor Block, this is your ward.
Yes, I move to approve.
Thank you. We don't need to have a public here. We just can we do a voice vote on this, or do you? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That one is approved. The second and final one is number 242-25, Class 2 auto dealer's license for Prestige Auto Imports on Truman Road in Newton Center. Cassidy?
This petition is the same. Everything has been checked by the corresponding departments and fees have been paid.
Thank you. I think we do not have a counselor from that ward. So would anyone else like to make a motion to accept this one? Counselor Lucas?
Yeah, move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All set. Moving on, we've got number 190-25, which is back before us tonight. This is a request to change from a non-conforming warehouse use to multi-family dwelling, to increase height, to waive certain dimensional requirements relative to parking, and to allow a freestanding sign at 44 Oak Street. Mr. Morris, I see you at the ready.
Wait a minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Terry Morris, and I'm here representing the Cicchetti family, owners of the property at 44 Oak Street in Newton Upper Falls. For 47 years, the Cicchetti family has been a faithful steward of this grand stone building built in 1840. The existing non-conforming use as a warehouse distribution and storage facility with loading docks serviced by truck deliveries and a large parking lot has not been compatible with the residential Upper Falls neighborhood. This proposal is to refurbish the building into 6 single-family residences. The lot has 27,000 square feet. With a lot area of 4,600 per unit, the density compares favorably with the existing residential neighborhood. A comparison of the existing and proposed conditions shows that the footprint of the building is unchanged. We now move to a look at the elevations. But the elevation on Oak Street, where the major challenge to this residential conversion is basically getting light into the upper levels to make residential use possible. In this particular case, you'll see some added windows to the roof monitor, as well as a refurbishing of the entrance for more residential feel. Moving to the north elevation, and I should say that the north elevation and the south elevations are both similar. They are wood frame facades on the second level. Both elevations are similar. These wood frame facades allows for increased fenestration. They're also characterized by commercial loading docks. You'll see in this particular picture that we have added fenestration to allow additional light, and we have made the entrance to the building more residential feel without, I should say, reconfiguring the original entrance, which maintains its shape. South elevation, as I said, is very similar to the north elevation in terms of the need to change certain things with the fenestration. This elevation, however, has a very beautiful arched entry, which is being refurbished from a loading dock into one of the main entrances of this building. On the rear elevation, there is a shed dormer roof established on the roof line, which significantly was approved by the Upper Falls Historic District Commission. In addition to that, there is covered parking shown to the lower left of the building, covered parking canopy for 8 of the 12 cars that are provided on site. Again, this side of the building features an arched entry, which this building historically has an entry on each of the 4 or 5 levels, and it's unique in that regard. Next, we go to the impervious, I think the next one, the impervious comparison. Leo, there we go. The impervious surface comparison, the existing exposed asphalt will be reduced by 50%. All utility and curb cuts to service the building are in place. Nonetheless, we're proposing to reduce the number of curb cuts by removing one and loading dock on Oak Street entirely. In addition, the existing curb cut on Cliff Road, is being moved further from the intersection with Oak Street for safety reasons. Stormwater control, which is an important issue, is currently lacking on this site. It is to be addressed by the installation of subsurface drainage systems and a regrading of the topography to a collection point where all the storm water and runoff and roof drainage will be retained and controlled on site. Finally, the landscape plan shows tree removal of 92 caliper inches and replacement trees of 126 caliper inches in compliance with the city's tree ordinance. A licensed arborist, having extensive experience with the requirements of the ordinance, has been engaged, has inspected the site, and has made recommendations which are shown on the final site plan to protect trees elsewhere on the site. And with that, Madam Chair, members of the committee, that concludes our formal presentation, and we are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. And as you promised, that was under 5 minutes. Appreciated. Thank you very much. We'll hear from planning. I think this will be very brief. This has been before us before, so let's hear from planning. Ms. Wewell, is that you?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Attorney Morris, could you stop sharing the screen, or your associate? Okay, thank you. So this is petition 190-25. It's a special permit to change from a non-conforming warehouse use to a multifamily dwelling. Some updates. This was continued from the July 8th, 2025 public hearing. Since then, the petitioner held a community meeting, which was requested at that first public hearing. Two of the trees initially proposed to be removed will now be maintained. That was shown in updated materials from the petitioner. The proposed dormer and overall site work remains the same, and the relief required remains the same. So planning previously noted that this proposed residential use is compatible with nearby uses. The design preserves the historic character of the structure and was approved by the local historic commission. Much of the zoning relief requested, height and setbacks, reflect the existing conditions of the building and the site. Its status as a corner lot further constrains the site with parking and driveway placement, sort of necessitating that relief. And the freestanding sign that requires special permit relief will assist in wayfinding. Just some short updates there, and that concludes the planning presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now is the time when we ask if there's any public comment. Anyone, any members of the public, either in the chamber or on Zoom, want to speak on this? We typically give 3 minutes per person, and I'm just saying that out loud because as we get into some of these larger, more complicated projects, if there are lots of people who want to speak, I may cut that back to 2 minutes in order to be able to hear from everyone. I don't think that's a problem tonight, but I'm just letting you know that if you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes. I don't see anybody in the chamber. I don't see any hands raised. Cassidy, do you see any there? Okay, let's take this into the committee.
Sorry, there is a hand raised now. Mary
Oh.
Lee Bellevue.
Mary Lee Belleville.
I'm Mary Lee Belleville, 136 Warren Street. I think this is a very nice project. I'm glad to see this building being preserved, and I think it's a good example of adaptive reuse. So I'm very supportive of this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Belleville. Anybody else virtually on Zoom here? I had seen a hand up before, but I don't see it anymore, so I'm not going to call on that person who may have changed his mind. Okay, let's take this into committee. Any questions or comments? Again, Tariq Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Wewell, a question on the zoning for this particular project. In the memo, you said that you have to apply the MRT density controls. And just wondering why you felt as though the need to go to MRT and not MR1. Is this type of use not allowed in the MR1 zone, or is that the reason why?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Multi-family dwellings are not allowed in the MR1 zone, but they are allowed in MRT. So we look to the zone where the use is allowed for the standards.
When you say allow, you mean by right, correct?
Yes, but I don't know if multifamily is allowed by special permit in MR1. It may only be MR2 and MR3.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Oh, I lost my notes. So some of the zoning relief that's being sought is parking within 5 feet of a building with residential units. Granted, this committee doesn't review MRT at all. This is probably the first time we've seen MRT in front of us, but I wasn't aware there was a parking requirement with the MRT zone. Is that right? And I don't recall, like, I don't know if, basically what I'm getting at, I don't know if this zoning relief is necessary. is what I'm getting at.
So that parking section within 5 feet of the building, that applies to all zones. That's not an MRT thing. That's in the parking section of the zoning ordinance. So I know it has come up in committee before. We don't exactly know why that provision is there. It may be, just separating parking from the dwelling, and that was the appropriate number. But I know we've looked into it because it's come up before in
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah, we usually waive that. I don't think it's ever been that. The other thing is, and Mr. Morse, I'm not gonna let you off the hook that easy. You are requesting a freestanding sign. I don't think we saw a picture of the sign that you're requesting. Could
The
you,
sign was, the sign was, this freestanding sign was approved by the Historic District Commission.
can we see a rendering of it?
Not in this presentation, we did in the original.
The original, wait, What do you
I'm
mean- what do you
sorry, I
mean
don't
by the
understand-
original?
I don't understand the question, Council.
you're requesting a freestanding sign.
Yes,
Can we see a picture of what the sign's gonna look like?
that picture, basically, when the original submission materials we submitted the entire package that was submitted to the Historic District Commission with all of the details for everything, including the freestanding sign. At this juncture, we didn't think that was going to be an issue this evening.
Okay, while I don't know if anyone else is gonna speak to this, is it in NewGov somewhere?
Is there what?
Is it in NewGov, the sign? A picture of, or a rendering of
We
what?
don't have it in the presentation that we prepared for this meeting.
Okay, is it in NewGov?
Is it in NewGov?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That's what okay,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you too well. My
Oh.
hearing aids are busted.
okay, so it's in NewGov.
It is in NewGov.
Is it in the
It's among the many documents that we uploaded during the course of this petition.
for the Historic Commission or?
Or no, for this, the
So
very
it's-
first package of materials that we uploaded was the entire 66 pages or whatever it is of materials that the Historic District Commission reviewed to place that on the public record for this application.
Okay, thank you. Just wanna,
It's okay. Go ahead.
no, that's it. Ms. Weaver, have you seen the sign? I just want to make sure.
Looking for it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but I will note, freestanding signs always require a special permit. If, if the detail isn't given, they would be limited to a size restriction, I think 35 square feet. You can exceed that by special permit. They are not asking for that at this time. I'll work on locating the sign plan, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen. it.
Okay, I'll work on it too. Other than that, I don't have any other questions, Mr. Morris. I think it's a
Thank
good
you.
project. It's a good use
Thank you.
of the building. I drove past it the other day and many times before I didn't know what was going on the inside. So it's going to use for housing. It's going to be used for housing. So and I know you had a community meeting a little while back. I heard that went well. So I think this is all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Counselor Lucas. But to the point, which hopefully we will get to it, a freestanding sign does require a special permit by us. I'm glad to know that the Upper Falls Historical Commission and I assume the Urban Design Commission have already approved it, but we do still need to do that. So it would be good if we could see a photo or an image of some sort. I'm assuming it meets the size requirements, in which case it should be a pretty clear-cut thing for us. We have some other members of the committee who would like to speak. Counselor Downs?
Thank you, Chair. I will defer to my colleague from Ward 5 and take up the last speaking space. However, I did look under the NewGov files. I did not see a sign, and I assume Ms. Waywell misspoke when she said 35 square feet. That would be a big sign, wouldn't it?
It would be, I have located it. I can share that. I had just wanted to make the point that there is a size restriction and, there are multiple layers of review on the sign. So happy to pull it up.
We're happy to give you another minute or two. I have a few other hands up if you want it, rather than feeling rushed. Okay, there you go. And it would help us, I think, to know where this is located on the site also. Where you propose locating it on the site.
That's clearly on the north end
Like it's along Oak Street.
at the north part of the site.
Those dimensions look accurate to me for the size. I was going to say 5 feet by 2 feet is the average, is the maximum, and that is the dimension size of the sign on the plan that I can be looking at right here. Counselor Lucas, are you set with that for now? Okay, Counselor Downs, are you done?
I will take up more at the end and let you go into other counselors and keep my hand up for now.
Okay, I'm going to ask all counselors if you can really try and limit yourself to once per meeting. I understand that sometimes new information comes up and you process it differently, but for the sake of time of how much we've got before us in the next few months, once per night would be my preference. Let's go now to.
I agree, but it's my ward and I think you want me to make the motion.
I understand that. I'm just trying to announce it also for everybody else's understanding. Thank you. Counselor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also think this is quite a lovely project, and I am an advocate for housing, which we desperately need. I do really appreciate the adaptive reuse and keeping the historic building. It's quite lovely, and I think it's done well. I just had some questions about if you could remind me about some of the landscaping that's going on, and the stormwater that you're keeping. My understanding is you're keeping all the stormwater on site, and that you saved 2 trees also, which I was glad to hear. Will the driveway be pervious? That's one of my questions regarding stormwater. It will be?
Larry, what was the question?
Will the driveways and some of the parking areas be pervious surfaces in terms of, the stormwater issue?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of trees are you going to be planting there? What that you're replacing? I know.
Rest assured, they're non-invasive.
Okay. No Norway maples.
No Norway maples.
Yeah, yeah.
And as I recall, they're even mostly native.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if I saw the plan for the landscaping, or I missed it.
There's a landscape plan was the last slide that.
Oh, okay.
And in fact.
Could I see it one more time?
From Mr. Morris's presentation.
That would be
Whoever's
fine.
showing your slides, can they pull up the landscape plan one?
Dale, can you bring up the last slide and the landscape plan, blow it up?
Your tech assist.
I think the biggest emphasis that we had was on basically the number of caliper inches we were replacing.
Can't
50% more.
really read those right now. If they could.
Oh, it is kind of hard to read.
Possibly zoom in. It may still be too blurry, but the plant list is unreadable, at least by me here.
Leo, can you blow that up at all?
Is that in the little box? There we
Yeah, I
go.
can
There we
do that
go.
myself.
Still a little hard. Oh, there you go. If you have your glasses on,
I do.
unblur, but it is in the
It's-
packet. So
It is in the
there a
packet.
plant
Okay.
list.
But they're all native species. Correct? They're all.
Green velvet, yes, correct. As I see.
It's wood.
Okay. No, I think it's a wonderful project and I appreciate it.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Counselor Getz. I do see your hand up. I'm going to call on you next, but I want to welcome John Oliver, who's joined us on Zoom, and Jonah Temple, who's here from the City Law Department. Counselor Getz.
Thank you, Chair. I actually wanted to speak to the historical significance of this building. It's a singular building that significantly contributes to the Upper Falls Historic District and to the city of Newton. In fact, I believe it could potentially be worthy of a nationally recognized landmark status. I call it a high landmark. And this needs to be understood that it is that meritorious. So, in speaking to this, I believe that the Upper Falls Local Historic District Commission did an outstanding job in their review of the property and in generating the certificate of appropriateness for the building and for the site. But my most pressing concern is the unintentional loss of historic fabric of the original building or any alterations to the original masonry of the building, either intentionally or inadvertently during the construction process, that was not approved by the Upper Falls Historic District Commission and delineated in the certificate of appropriateness. So this will require strong oversight of the work performed on the site, as well as strong adherence to the certificate of appropriateness. I am in support of the change of use from commercial to multifamily residential, but not at the expense of historic loss. We in Newton and in Upper Falls are so fortunate to have a building that is nearly in its original state as it stands today, and so that it's a reminder of our past, and it's there to teach future generations of Newtonians of the industrial origins of Upper Falls. And finally, I would like to make a request of the petitioner. If during the conversion of this property from its current status to housing, there's a finding of an entombed historically significant feature or detail, for example, an antique fireplace or detailed floor work, then I would ask that there is a pause in the work and notification of the city preservation staff so that they would be able to photograph and document this feature for archival purposes. So it's a piece that I feel is that important, because this building is a truly unique building for Newton, if not for nationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Getz. I'm not sure if Mr. Morris are planning me to address that. I am always under the assumption that things will be being built as they are approved and planned, and I don't think that they intend to do anything different here, and hopefully if it happens, it will be caught. Before I go back to Councillor Downs for a motion, which is appropriate, because as she said, she is the ward councillor from this ward on this committee. The one question I had for Mr. Morris, the real reason this is the main reason this is back before us again tonight was just because we wanted to know, how did the community meeting go? Last time it wasn't clear. I don't see more letters from anyone. Do you want to give us a quick update on what happened at that community meeting, at the neighbor meeting, which is what we were sort of waiting to have occur? Is that correct?
I basically gave the committee and uploaded to the portal a very detailed 3-page report on what happened at that meeting.
could
I
you
think
just
the most
briefly
important thing
state
to
it
take
for-
away from that meeting is the fact that we were working with the neighbors and the district commission for 16 months. And the positive reaction that we got was predicated on the fact that we were not changing any element in the stone structure. And that the density of the project, 6 units, was certainly, far less than what some other people had proposed in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. That's just what we needed to hear, and I like to share it verbally so other people who don't see the things that are uploaded can hear it. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Councillor Downs, back to you.
Great. I supported this before the community meeting. Community meeting made me even happier, as well as the preservation of the 2 trees. I would like to move to close the public hearing and to approve.
Thank you very much. Let's vote on.
Excuse me, Chair, if I could, the owner of the property had his hand up, and I would ask that he be recognized.
But I do not see that.
It was up after I spoke.
Mr. Cicchetti?
I've been scratching my ear. I was listening intently, but I didn't have anything to say that had not been said and answered properly.
So are you all set?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I thought he had something to say.
It's okay. I'm on it.
So we did.
Councillor Farrell.
But, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. While I appreciate the
developer's assurances that the historic nature of this building will be preserved, I would like to second Counselor Getz's suggestion that there be regular professional historic oversight of the building to ensure that there are no errors. And that if possible, we have photographic documentation of the building as it stands now and throughout its construction. Thank you.
Counselor Farrell, can you be a little clearer about what you mean by that? But what is the technical term? Who and when do you want this to be monitored in a way that's different than any other historic or any other regular construction project?
With some experience in another very historic building that was decimated by the developer because that developer took it into his own hands to make a decision without going back to the Historic Commission, which had approved the project in the beginning. I guess I would recommend that the Historic Commission assure us that it will, in fact, review the building if in whatever manner possible to ensure that it's maintained, its historic nature is maintained. I would defer obviously to Councilor Getz if she has a more specific response to that, but we just need to be reassured that in addition to the developer's assurances, that this building be protected, the historic nature of this building be protected. Thank you.
All right, thank you for elucidating a little bit. I think I will look to planning and the law department to ask their opinion on what it is we can ask of that and if it's appropriate. And if so, maybe we could put that somewhere in the conditions.
Chair, I can
Temple.
speak to that briefly.
Thank you. Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Temple.
My initial reaction is that it wouldn't be appropriate for this committee to dictate any action by the Upper Falls Historic District Commission. Their review of this project and their approval of a certificate of appropriateness is not really within the purview of this committee. I assume if they had concerns about compliance with their certificate of appropriateness, that they address that sufficiently in their own conditions in their order.
Thank you, Mr. Temple. Let's vote on the motion that was made to close the public hearing. If there's no more comment at this time. Are we set for now? Councilor Getz, do you want to speak again right now before we close the public hearing? You're on mute.
Right, simply to add that I think that adherence to the certificate of appropriateness would be appropriate, and I think that that's already, presumed. But I don't want this to be the kind of scenario where something happens inadvertently or intentionally, and then we come into a situation where there's a stop work order and then we're trying to fix something that needs remediation. So that's where I go to, looking through the board order, and there's no real sort of mention within the board order itself of the significance of the property and that in fact it went through an approval process within the local historic district. So I think that that's something in the future, or even a part of this board order needs to be mentioned, because I think that this is in terms of an approval process, there needs to be some mention within the board order of the actual oversight and the certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, I get that that is what you and Councilor Farrell are at. So what I suggest we do now is take a look at the proposed council order.
So we vote the public hearing first.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought we just did that, but that was in my head. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Thank you. This whole topic is going on much longer than I anticipated, so I think I was trying to move us forward. Now let's take a look at the council order, proposed council order. And if there's something we need to insert on this that seems appropriate with law, let's look at that.
Sure. So we have the findings. We have
Findings first. Yeah, thank you.
the 4 standard special. Yeah. Okay. So we have the 4 standard special permit criteria or findings from the criteria. So we've, sort of said that the site's an appropriate location for this project because the neighborhood is primarily residential, and this is a residential use, so it fits in nicely with that. The project also allows for the reuse of the historic stone barn building with minimal changes. Will not adversely affect the neighborhood because it will preserve the historic character of the building while allowing for alterations to utilize the space for residential use. There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians because all of the parking is contained on site. It will consolidate the number of curb cuts, which results in a reduction from 3 to 2 curb cuts. Access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. The use will not be substantially more detrimental because it's a residential use and is more contextually similar to the built fabric of the neighborhood than the warehouse is. A literal compliance with the parking regulations is impracticable. Due to the location of the site, it's constrained by its status as a corner lot, subjecting it to greater dimensional standards. And these last 3 are around the retaining walls, so the lot presents challenging topography, which limits the use of the property such that it could not be improved without these retaining walls because the site is sloped and has varying topography. The retaining wall will not adversely impact the neighborhood because it will help stabilize soil in a portion of the site that is currently sloped. Is the minimum structure necessary to allow the property to be reasonably utilized due to the uneven grading of the site. And I will move down to the conditions. So we have the standard plan referencing conditions. So this locks in the plans that were submitted to the Land Use Committee in the special permit. The survey, the architectural drawings, as well as the landscape plan. The second condition requires an operations and maintenance plan for stormwater management for the engineering division. And it requires that O&M plan to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. We have the standard pest and rodent control condition. We also have the standard construction management plan condition. The I&I ordinance condition, because this is 6 units, trash shall be handled by private entity. We have the standard building permit condition. And then standard certificate of occupancy. And then landscaping shall be maintained in good condition and replaced as soon as feasibly possible. And then the last condition just allows the Commissioner of Inspectional Services to issue temporary COs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wewell. So there was a reference to the historic nature of the building. There is nothing in here about additional construction supervision. I personally agree with Mr. Temple that it is not our role to give that job to the Upper Falls Historic Commission, but I'd like to go back to Councilor Farrell and Councilor Getz to see if there was something that you feel would be appropriate or that is omitted in that council order. Mr. Temple.
Sorry, Chair. I was just going to add that if the committee wanted to, you could certainly add an additional finding that talks about the Historic District Commission's approval. Or if you really wanted to, although I don't believe it's necessary, at the end of the plan reference condition, you could add the certificate of appropriateness there as an indicator that it must be complied with.
Thank you. I think that's a good suggestion. Councilor Farrell, does that suit you? Both of those?
I guess raise your hand. I would
Yes, but
defer if you
you're
had-
calling on you because
I
you're
appreciate
in the
that.
committee.
I appreciate that, Chair. I would like to defer my response, if I may, to Councilor Getz.
Okay, Councilor Getz.
Yeah, I actually, thank you, Mr. Temple, because I think that's exactly what needs to happen. And I think it's appropriate for it to be, delineated in the special permit.
In the findings and perhaps
The
in
two
the
pieces that
condition.
he just mentioned. Yep.
I'm seeing nods. I'm good with that. I'm seeing nods here. Is that something you're nicely adding in right now?
I'm just adding the note. I think Attorney Temple and I will go back and craft something for the committee to review next to the council hearing.
Okay. But to the nature of that, perfect. Are we all set for now? Anyone else? Let's take a roll call vote on this. What we're voting on is to approve it with the additional conditions that we haven't seen in writing yet, but we will before the full council votes on this. Cassidy?
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lobovitz, Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
President Laredo. The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck, Mr. Chetty and Mr. Morris. Thank you for coming.
Madam Chair, thank you for taking time out of your heavy schedule to to reach closure on this matter.
We're all happy to see this building be reused. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the really meaty part of our evening. Again, I want to remind everyone that we're in a joint meeting with the Planning and Development Board because the next two items, which we'll be talking about simultaneously because they're related though separate. One is again number 216-25, which is a request to rezone 3 parcels to MR1, multi-residence 1. And the second part of that is the special permit part, which is 217-25, a request for a special permit and site plan approval to allow 71 single-family attached dwellings in 27 buildings total, with associated dimensional waivers and inclusionary zoning exceptions at 85 Dudley Road. And for this, we will hear from the petitioner first. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of the Land Use Committee and members of the Planning Board. My name is Lawrence Lee with the law firm of Rosenberg, Freeman and Lee at offices at 246 Walnut Street in Newtonville, representing Dudley Road Estates LLC. That's the petitioner before you tonight. I am on Zoom as well, and I would like to share my screen with your committee, please. Thank you. Forward a little bit. The project we're presenting tonight is located at 85 Dudley Road that consists of 3 parcels of land. With me tonight are members of the development team, a few of whom have strong local ties to the city of Newton. Cindy Stumpo is the principal of Dudley Road Estates LLC. She's also the owner of C. Stumpo Development, which is located in Newton on Route 9, just a short distance from the subject property at 85 Dudley. Cindy grew up on Dudley Road, is well known in the community, has decades of experience building homes in the city, particularly on Dudley Road, and have local experience and knowledge that are important to understand the neighborhood. Vern Porter, a professional land surveyor and consultant of the team, is all helping us tonight. Vern grew up in Newton and is very familiar with Dudley Road. Vern also has an office in Newton Upper Falls for many years and have worked in the city. Michael McKay from McKay Architects is the designer of the project. Unfortunately, Michael is delayed unexpectedly, so his associate, Justin Bellucci, will be stepping in for him tonight. Giovanni Vodera from is the professional principal engineer of Vodera Engineering. Mark Zarello of Architect 31 is our landscape architect. Randy Hart from VHB is our traffic consultant. Patrick Daly is our energy consultant. And attorney Jeffrey Allen from Lawson Whiteson is our general counsel. We're before you tonight seeking approval of a zone change from SR1 and SR2 to an MR1 zoning district. A special permit pursuant to section 7.3.3 of the Newton zoning ordinances. Prior to this public hearing, we've had meetings with various city officials, city departments such as the planning department, engineering department, fire department through the development review team process. We've also been in communications with our Ward 8 city councilors, David Kalis, Rick Lipoff, and Stephen Farrell. We've also gone before Conservation Commission in April and received an order of conditions from them. Part of the property is slightly within the buffer zone. That's the reason why we went before them. In addition to the meetings with city officials, our team met through Zoom and in-person meetings with various neighbors of our property. For our presentation tonight, we'll provide you information about our proposal, including architectural plans and renderings, site plans and stormwater management, traffic, landscaping, in that particular order. We will then end our presentation, at which time we will be able to answer any questions you may have. Subject property, most of you are familiar with, is north of Newton South High School. So where my cursor is, Newton South is just below us. Route 9 is just north of us. We're about a half mile away from the Atrium, formerly the Atrium Mall, and about just under a mile away from the towers and the Chestnut Hill Mall and the Chestnut Hill Square. This is an assessor's map showing the 3 parcels of land. As mentioned, 85 Dudley, which this petition is referenced, consists actually of 3 parcels. Where my cursor is 85 Dudley Road, which is currently improved with a single-family home consisting of approximately 39,161 square feet of land. This adjacent property highlighted in blue is what I refer to as 0 Dudley Road, is an unimproved parcel of land consisting of about 598,341 square feet. And in the 3rd parcel, which is where my cursor is on the bottom left, is 132 Brandeis Road, currently improved with a single-family home consisting of about 14,576 square feet of land. In total, there are approximately 652,519 square feet of land, or just under 15 acres. Currently, the property is zoned SR1 and SR2. So you can see from the zone map, our property is bifurcated. On the westerly side, you'll see the SR2, which generally are smaller lots of land and thereby smaller homes. On the right-hand side, you will see, which is the easterly side of Dudley Road, which are SR1 zoning district properties, generally consisting of larger parcels of land and larger homes. And nearby, as I pointed out earlier, easterly from here, just around Florence Street area, we have some multifamilies, MR1s, 2s, and 3 zoning districts. So our proposal tonight consists of keeping the existing single-family home at 85 Dudley Road. Our plan currently is to rehab that property and to erect 70 new townhouse-style single-family attached dwellings in 26 buildings. The new buildings will consist of duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes. Unit sizes will range between 2,800 square feet to about 4,500 square feet. The proposal will have single entrance exit off Dudley Road with a newly created private road residences, and the units are intended to be for condominiums for sale. We're seeking relief from the zoning ordinances in addition to the zone change from SR1, SR2 to MR1. As mentioned before, one of the requests here that triggers the relief is the single-family attached dwellings in an MR1 zoning district. One of the other requests under the special permit is an allowance of cash payment in lieu of an affordable housing. One of the requirements in the zoning ordinance when making this request is what is so-called unusual net benefit, which is really not defined in the zoning ordinance. So what we believe here is that the unusual net benefit is the opportunity for the city to receive millions of dollars that will be paid to the Newton Affordable Housing Trust and the Newton Housing Authority, which would be one of the largest, if not the largest, affordable housing payment made to the city of Newton. Roughly, it's based off of a formula, mathematical formula of $650,000 of what we refer to as the total development cost, which is a number generated from the Newton Housing Partnership, and is reviewed every 3 years, multiplied by the required number of units of affordable units that are for this project. So based on if it's 1 units, 12.425 is the number that's required. It's roughly $8 million in total. So effectively, 4 million each effectively will go to the trust and the authority. This is another solution to affordable housing. Affordable housing is a big issue that requires multiple types of solutions, not just about creating new units, but also maintaining existing units. One obvious solution is, of course, creating new units. However, providing money to agencies that are equipped to address affordable housing issues that benefit many people and families, I believe, is another viable solution. There's really no right or wrong answer. This is an analysis of what is best form of solution in a particular project or development. And the reason why this ordinance was drafted in such a way is to allow for flexibility. So the cash payment in lieu is an option that a developer may elect under the zoning ordinances. The money can be deployed immediately to help finance ongoing projects. That may include hiring of experts that are needed for such projects that perhaps the Newton Housing Trust or the authority are looking to do. It can also be used to leverage sources of financing and funding from state and federal agencies for projects. The money can be invested and reinvested for other projects throughout the city, and it's not isolated to one particular location, and it's for a benefit for the entire city. With the money, the city could realistically support the creation and preservation of more units, hundreds of affordable units, with deeper affordability compared with perhaps just 12 units in one location. One of the criteria here that the City Council is to look at when making a finding about this particular topic is the viability and proximity of the project to public transportation, as an example. This is not a location that we would say is near public transportation. So that's another reason that we would that would be factored into this. We've had discussions and will continue to have discussions with affordable housing professionals and advocates on this topic and request. Discussions with the Newton Affordable Housing Trust, the Housing Authority, and the Newton Fair and Affordable Housing Partnership are all going to be had after this meeting. We are slated to make a short presentation with the Housing Partnership on September 16th, followed by another presentation at the end of October.
Mr. Lee, could you speak a little bit more closely to your microphone?
Will do.
I think
Sorry
some
about
people
that.
are having a little trouble hearing you. Thank you.
Sorry about that. So moving on in terms of the other requested relief are section 3.2.4 for height, side setback, and 3 stories of certain buildings that qualify for that. One thing to note is that the side setback relief is only for the main existing home, which is at 24.5. You'll see that at a later point. Everywhere else, the new buildings will comply with a minimum 25-foot setback. The other relief is section 5.4.2B1, retaining walls greater than 4 feet. And that is, those are the conclusion of in terms of the summary of the requested relief of this petition. By way of some background, there was in 2022, as noted in the planning memo, an expression of interest by the city. So at that point in time, the city had an opportunity to buy this property. They had solicited proposals from various developers. They reviewed 9 proposals. Councilor Lipoff is one of the members of that committee that reviewed proposals from that exercise. What was selected at the end from the 9 proposals was single-family townhome style development with a private road access. And the developer at that point in time noted that a density of 75 to 125 units was an appropriate number for this location. For various reasons, economics and market pressures, the project did not proceed. The property was then put on the market, and hence my client has this property under agreement. This area plan shows an overlay of what we're looking to do. This is a townhouse development with a single entry point off of Dudley Road. Where my cursor is the existing house at 85 Dudley. This roadway will be created as part of the project. And the homes, as you will see, we will get into with the architect and with the rest of my team that will present the details of this. So with this, I am going to turn it over to Justin with McKay Architects.
Justin, are you prepared to go ahead with this presentation?
Are you able to find him on Zoom?
Has he been asked to share his screen?
There's one Justin on Zoom that I can promote.
Yeah, if you can ask, I think that's.
He could change his name so that we know that it's really him.
Okay, there we go. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I was muted. My name is Justin Berlucci from McKay Architects, and I'm going to present the actual architectural plans tonight. This first slide is a site rendering. The entrance from Dudley Street is at the bottom left-hand side. Again, the development consists of 26 new buildings, as well as one existing single-family home at 85 Dudley Road. Again, there will be 70 single-family attached dwellings in a mix of duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes. Each dwelling consists of a 3 or 4 bedroom unit, along with the existing standalone single-family home, which will remain a single family. Here's the second view showing the opposing rendered view with the Dudley Road entrance in the top right. One thing that's hard to show on these renderings is the sharp grade changes throughout the site. Those grade changes produce a mixture of designs with garages at first floor grade, drive under garages with first floors above, walkout basements, allowing the buildings to conform to the existing topography wherever possible. All the units are designed to be accessible and have the highest level of energy efficiency. First floor bedrooms are provided in 48 of the 70 units. That's about 70%. All the units will feature 3-foot wide doors and have elevators servicing all levels of the homes. Energy efficiency will meet or exceed all building code requirements. Included in that would be closed cell insulation, the window and door requirements, Energy Star appliances, and mechanicals. Proposed square footage for the new units include basement, first floor, garage, and second floor square feet. They range from 2,880 square feet to 4,550 square feet. The existing house with a total proposed square footage of 9,051. Just to give some perspective about the size of this development, the total proposed square footage for all the units from proposed grade would be about 240,000 square feet, which would produce an FAR percentage of a 0.35. The total proposed square feet from existing grade would be a little bit higher at 266,000 square feet, which would produce a FAR percentage of 0.39. And for reference, the allowable MR1 FAR would be about 248,000 square feet at 0.38% FAR. The building height from existing average grade ranges from 32 feet to about 54 feet. These higher numbers are caused by the extreme existing grade changes of the development. The dwellings with excessive height numbers have walkout basements and or drive under garages where you would walk out the first floor to grade out the rear of the house. Height from proposed average grade would range from 32 feet to 36 feet. There's two outliers to that, which would be building 5 at 38 feet, which we will work to reduce that number to get under 36. And the existing dwelling at 85 Dudley is about 38.7 feet. The majority of the units are technically 3 stories because of the grade changes. But when the dwellings are finished and the site work and retaining walls are completed, all buildings will conform to the max 36-foot height as viewed from the street. Third story mostly would be basements too. The proposed architecture was intended as a reflection of the quality of the homes in the surrounding Dudley Road neighborhood. Contemporary designs are the theme of this development, featuring clean lines, asymmetry, large windows, and low-pitched roofs. The exterior finishes are a mixture of fieldstone, limestone, and smooth stucco. So this is a sort of a streetscape rendering of a duplex. You'll notice the house next door is a little bit different. We're going to vary the dwelling designs wherever possible to achieve more neighborhood feel for the development. Here is a typical triplex. You'll notice the leftmost unit is at a different grade because of the changing topography of some of the units. And that's going to be typical of a lot of the units in this development. So here's the duplex showing a sharp grade change. The first full level of the unit to the right is at the garage level, where the unit to the left has more of a garage drive under feel to it. Again, this will be typical because of the changing topography on the lot. Here is a quadplex showing the exact same thing we just talked about. As you go down the street and the street goes down lower and lower, each unit is stepping down to remain at a similar height to the next unit beside it. So conforming to the natural grade is the way we're sort of developing these. So here's some typical units. This would be a duplex elevation. Again, we showed it shows a mixture of the stucco and the stone with different levels of garages as it goes down the hill. So it'd be typical. Is a typical duplex floor plan, open floor plan. Some have offices, some don't. 3 to 4 bedrooms per unit will be typical. Typical triplex elevation. Again, stepping down and down. Very similar. Everything is very similar in the open floor concept. 2-car garages, 3 to 4 bedrooms per unit. Lastly, the quadplex. Again, it's almost 2 duplexes put together, differing grade levels as it goes down, similar to the rest of the units with open floor plans, 3 to 4 bedrooms per unit. Varying garages too. So sometimes on the outside, sometimes connected in the middle. That'll about do it. Surely you have any questions, I'll be here to answer.
So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Vern Porter.
Good evening. Vern Porter. I live at 324 Elliott Street. I have an office at 354 Elliott Street, Newton. As we all know, this property's been around for a long time. Anyone that went to Newton South should be very familiar with it. There was always a pathway that went up through Dudley Road, up to Dudley Road. And if you lived in Thompsonville like I did, that's how you went to Newton South. So it went right through this property. If you went further, it would. So the path would start here, comes down through the middle of the property here, and then cuts down and goes right back to behind, which I called the tech building when I was there. It's not the tech building anymore. It's some kind of an art studio or something, but So we're doing a proposed development with 70 units. The road is going to come from Dudley Road, and as you know, the site is very steep. We go to the existing conditions. You'll see that from Dudley Road is elevation 205. Brandeis Road is elevation like 118. Brandeis Road stops right at the school property and is now Lions Way. I think I saw the sign the other day. So the path that I talked about walking down is on that plan. You look, you see the path that comes down like right through here. Our development is going to have a road that comes down and around and loops back. The idea to develop this site, I think the city went into the same issues, is to create an area that you can put some units in and try to stay away from the perimeter of the property. So what we've done is come into the middle, created this area that's between that big P. I call it a P because it's last name's Porter, so I didn't have anything to do with it, but all the buildings will be brought around there. And there's some other site conditions. So things all kind of, there's a high point in the middle, right in here. Right in there is a high point, it's elevation 197. The elevation of the road way up here is 205. And our proposed road here is like 185. Comes downhill, downhill, downhill to a low point, about 148 right there. And, you know, as you go around, it's kind of flat around here. It's pretty flat going up here. When you get to this corner, it's like 156. And then it goes back up. It's kind of steeper right across here, back up to the 185. What they're going to be doing is a lot of cutting and filling. They're going to take the middle of this P out. And the elevation of that pond is about 150, 155. The existing elevation of the peak there is 197, approximately 40 feet at the highest point. It does get much less, and that's why the road is out where it is. We tried to follow the road. When you get to the point here, the road is at 150, the existing grade's about 153. Same thing up here, the road is 153, the existing grade's about 157. Here it's 185, the existing grade is like 176. What happens is you come down to like a little valley right here and then back up to a point here. So what that does is makes it so all the water that runs off this site, this is a subcatchment plan. So all the water that runs off this site actually goes to Mr. Younger's property. So all of this section right here all goes this way. And then this section, this diagram, all that water goes this way. And all of the water in this section goes down this way towards the houses that are on Adeline Road. So this is Adeline Road over here. This is Brandeis Road over here. This is Hagen Road. This is a small little wetland area. And what we're proposing to do is to divert the water. So go to the next one. That one. So this is the developed site. So what's going to happen now is the water from this side of the road, and then once we get to about here, it includes the buildings, everything that's in here, all is going to go that way now. So we're going to reduce the amount of water and runoff that's going to the abutters by a considerable amount. And the way we do that is to collect it. We have a detention basin here, and some of the road that comes down feeds into here. This basin overflows into a detention basin and a leaching basin. This is both. And then there's actually an overflow from that, as well as some of the other road that goes into this detention basin, and some of this basin is a leaching basin. And then it has an outlet structure that will go out to Brandeis Road. Now, we've obviously designed this to the city Newton standards, so it's calculated at a 100-year storm. We're making it so that there isn't any increased runoff. And we used values for woods and brush. Clearly, there's a lot of exposed ledge in there, which has a lot more runoff, but we did, we're very conservative when we're doing the calculations to use, values that would make it so that we're not going to have any issues. We had a lot of comments from the neighbors on Adeline Road, which is over here. So in doing our revisions, we had a revision that was done for the Conservation Commission, where we had a detention basin here. We took it out and we moved the project back. We came here and moved these buildings this way to get them away from the people on Adeline Road. Allowed us to have an undisturbed buffer in this whole section. So this whole section over here originally was going to be cut and then replanted. Now it's going to be left natural. This whole area here is in the buffer zone. They've asked us not to touch that, so we're going to stay out of that. It gets a little narrow here, and then once you get back up to here, the natural buffer gets wider. We're also going to have water and sewer. The city's asked us to do put a water line through. Yeah, go to the utility line. That one. No. Let's go that one first. Yeah, we'll go that one first. This one is this plan. It has a lot of lines all over it, but basically what this does is shows how the Conservation Commission asks us to tell them how we're going to phase this project and how we're going to prevent, when it rains during construction, a giant deluge that is going to run water down to Newton South, down to the neighbors. So what this shows is the blue lines are basically rough construction roads that they'll build so that they're going to take, when they go to remove the material in this centerpiece, they'll have a road that runs around the outside. They'll have a staging area here that they'll create flat and, be able to store things. This red line is a hay bale line or a siltation line, and it runs around. And then there's another one behind it, like over here, there's another. And these are extras, just so that during construction, you can't have, 200, 300, 400 feet of slope that's open, not vegetated. If it rains, it's gonna come crashing down. So we've put these weirs, they act like a weir in the way to slow down the water. We also have infiltration along siltation barriers along the property lines, and where the slope is steeper, go back to the other. Yeah, so where the slope's steeper, like along Mr. Younger's property here, and then along this property here, you see those little weirs. Those act just like little stone walls that they have along the seashore. So as the water comes down, takes the energy out so that it's not crashing down and going anywhere. So it slows it all down so that we don't have stuff going everywhere. We also have some temporary basins. This is a temporary drainage basin, and this is a temporary drainage basin. And there's a third one over here. And another, this one will be also a temporary one. So what those will do is they'll give places for the water as it's running off to store so that it doesn't just jump over the hay bales and go with the other properties. It'll all stay on our site, be contained. The hay bale ones. This is a typical siltation barrier that they'll use. Those red lines, this is what it will be. And it's a silt fence with a wire mesh in it that just pretty sturdy. Would also use along with that is a wattle, which will be put in front of it so to collect the water as well. Utility. We have let's see that. So the walkway, we're trying to maintain that walkway to go into Newton South. So during construction, we're going to put a temporary walk that's going to run along the southern border right there. And it's just going to be a 5-foot wide strip of our property that'll be fenced on either side. It'll go all the way from Dudley Road to Newton South so that people can be able to walk back and forth to Newton South. I've been doing it my whole life, and there's lots of kids that come through there. Some of them are nice, some of them aren't. The poor owners have lost things over the years. They've had a couple of fires, but for the most part, the kids are really good. And they just walk through, and the owners there have always been very nice about it, and they've always known. And I think they're a nice family. So we're going to recreate this walkway, and the way we're going to do that is we have a sidewalk, and it's going to run down that right side of the road, and then they'll have a crosswalk there at the intersection, and then it's going to go around the inside of the circle. We're going to jump to another plan. So then it goes around the inside of the circle, and then comes down, and it keeps going right there. It crosses over again, and then we've built access roads so that we can go down and maintain these ponds. They're not really roads, they're just level areas that you can actually drive equipment down. You'll be able to drive a pickup truck down there. So that walkway is going to go down that access road to a point where it went through the fence, and there's a small set of stairs there. Clearly, this path is not ADA compliant. It wasn't for the last 60 years that I knew, but we would like to provide, the community with the access they've always had. So this is just other sections. We do have it all blown up. So if you had a specific question, the areas that you see that are fuzzy, like around the outsides of the buildings, those are actually the riprap slopes. They're a tight slope. Most of them are 1.5 to 1. They're not retaining walls, but they are a slope. Mark will discuss how he'll landscape and treat those. All of our detention basins, utility one. All right, this is a basic utility layout. So you can see that we have a water line that comes here. And the city's asked us to provide them with a larger water line than is required for us. They were asking us to put I think a 12-inch line from Dudley Road to Brandeis Road. The pipes in Brandeis Road and the pipe in Dudley Road are only 8-inch. That's kind of what we need for our property. So we'll be using 8-inch through around the circle, but we will run the size that the city asked for down through here and out to Brandeis Road. So I'm just going to do a quick run off at how the drainage actually works. So the road bisects all the area over here. All the water goes down on this plan. The road intercepts it. We collect it. It gets brought, like the water here gets brought into this pond right here. The water here goes up and comes around with it. Once this pond is full, this is the outlet structure. It comes over and it meets with the other water coming from the other part of the road here, goes down into this pond. This pond has an outlet structure that takes the water through here and then brings it down to this pond with the other water from this pipe. They both enter this pond, and then it's all stored. And if there is an overflow, it would go out here up to Brandeis Road. The sewer follows the same path. It's actually right beside the drain line, and the water's in the same thing. The sewer just, it services all the properties here. It doesn't go all the way up to Dudley Road. It is far enough up. It goes all the way up to catch this last unit. And it'll also be far enough to collect this house if it wasn't already done, but I think they already connected to the newest sewer that was put in Dudley Road back in the 90s. I think they put the sewer in now. So like I said, this abuts Newton South, just so you get an idea of the elevations, because it really is a steep site. This portion of Brandeis Road where our property is here, this is elevation 118. The top of this little mountain right here, it's 197. So it's about 75 feet from Brandeis Road to this point right here. And then from here, it goes down to about 176 in this corner, and then back up to elevation 205. So from 205 to 118 doesn't sound like a lot, but it's this section right in here that is just you went out there, you don't even realize how tall it is until you go out there and you look. It's pretty big. So that's why we developed around it, and we'll lower it down so that we can put the buildings in. And there was one building that had a waiver for height, just so you know. The reason it did is it's one of the buildings right here. It's a fourplex. And it's just because the road goes downhill and there's 4 units. So each unit, if you took each unit, it would be 36 feet, but there's 4 of them. So as it goes down, the building in a total gets to about 38. So it's close, but it's because of the slope in the property. And I think that's about it. We have the wetlands. We got an order of conditions. If anyone had any specific questions, we can answer them. It's the fire department plan. We did meet with the assistant chief. He asked us to provide him with these sketches, which show a bus 45, which is their engine, driving around and being able to make all the turns and whatnot. We did have peer review, just so everyone knows that there was a peer review that was done, and there was a memo that they did, and we've provided some quick answers to their memo, and then we'll bring the backup information as we proceed in our design. There wasn't anything that was like crushing for us, so it's all stuff that we'll be able to manage without any problem. And what else? Oh yeah, we did do the fire truck both ways, so they can go either way, and it doesn't matter which way they go. There'll be enough room. I think we were talking about parking in certain places, and the fire department asked us that had some particular places that they noted in their approval that we shouldn't park. They also asked us for one of the little red boxes so someone can pull, and that's going to go. They told us where to put it. It's going to go at that intersection. And what else did they ask for? Oh yeah, they asked for 4 hydrants, and they went through the sketch and gave us locations that they prefer them to be. So we followed their instructions. Thank you very much.
Turn this over to Randy Hart of VHB. It's on Zoom.
Cassidy, does Mr. Hart have permission to share screen?
It should be all set now.
Great, thank you. Well, good evening. I'm Randy Hart. I'm a principal at VHB. We developed the traffic impact and access study for the proposed project. Thank you. The traffic study was prepared consistent with local and state standards for traffic impact review and includes some features like study area. We consulted with the city, and through that consultation, we determined 8 intersections in the vicinity of the project is appropriate. We review existing roadway conditions and safety conditions at the study area intersections. We look at existing and future traffic conditions and operations at each location for each condition. And we assess the potential influence within the study area that the project will have based on the traffic that's anticipated. We also review access and operations with and without the project in place so that we understand what impact, if any, the project would have on the local study area intersections. Next slide, please. So in terms of the traffic counts and safety records that are collected, we collect turning movement counts at each of the study area intersections, and we do it for a residential project during 2 critical periods. On a weekday between 7 and 9 in the morning, the commuter commute to work, and 4 to 6 in the afternoon, the commute home. It's during those 2 periods when the combination of site traffic coupled with traffic on the roadway already is at its most critical level. We also collect automatic or continuous type traffic counts on Dudley Street, or Dudley Road, excuse me, that's a typo, apologize for that, for a 48-hour period. And that collects not only traffic volumes or for 24-hour periods, but it also collects speed data as well. We also gather from the files of Massachusetts Highway Department accident records for the most recent 5 years of data where it's available. And I'm happy to report that review of that data suggests that all of the study area intersections are below the state average, with one exception, Route 9 at Parker Street. By reviewing the traffic counts, the accident reports, performing operational analysis, we're able to get a clear picture of the existing condition in the area. And that's really the basis for the traffic work that goes forward for the future. Next slide, please. In terms of the project itself and what it'll generate, we rely, as most people do, on the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE trip generation manual. And for this particular project, Land Use Code 215, single family attached housing, was appropriate for the use of the projections. And based on that approach, we anticipate the project will generate approximately 33 trips in the morning, with 8 entering and 25 exiting. And then in the evening peak hour, about 40 peak hour trips with 24 entering and 16 exiting. Next slide, please. In terms of access, access is something we pay very close attention to. We look at intersection site distance and stopping site distance. For those who aren't aware of what those are, stopping site distance is the minimum required. You really need to meet that in order to have safe access to the site. Intersection site distance is desirable to meet as well, but it's oftentimes not met. But in this particular case, not only is the stopping site distance exceeded the minimums, intersection site distance also exceeds the minimum requirements as well. So we have more than adequate sight lines available to us for the site driveway. Next slide, please. One thing we've heard a lot of along the way here is that, Dudley Road, there's a lot of concern about speed and the narrowness of it and the lack of pedestrian bicycle environment. And so we did a formal traffic calming assessment that looked at all of the various options that might be available to try to slow the volume down. And we know the speeds out here based on the ATR data we did. It suggests that the 85th percentile speed northbound was 32 miles per hour. The 85th percentile speed southbound was 30 miles per hour, but the speed limit is 20 miles per hour. So yes, speed is an issue that definitely needs to be addressed. And based on the traffic calming assessment that was conducted, we've identified a couple of measures which would be effective here. We're showing the red lines across Dudley Road. They're hard to see at this scale. I apologize for that, but we're showing up near Route 9 a location where we're recommending for a speed hump. And then down near Newton South on the curve, we're recommending 2 additional speed humps to sort of manage activity. And then another effective treatment to supplement that is the addition of radar speed signs, which basically, take a reading as to the oncoming vehicle, and they let you know if you're over the speed limit and to slow down. So we're recommending 2 of those as well along this corridor, and we think both these options are viable and will improve safety and lower the speeds at the same time. Next slide, please. And so in conclusion, I just want to mention a few things. One, as Vern said, his civil work has been peer reviewed. Our transportation work has been peer reviewed by BSC. And in general terms, they were in general agreement with the approach, the analysis, and the conclusions. They agreed that the speed humps and speed signs are a good idea and something that should be considered. We also performed operational analyses for both future conditions with the project in place and without. And when you compare the two, it shows that there's really only minor influences on the study area intersections as a result of the project. The peer consultant asked us to take a look at Parker Street at Route 9 eastbound, the signal, and see if there's any optimization available there. And there is some tweaks and modification that can be done to the timing and phasing to enhance operations there a little bit beyond what it is today. So that's something we're considering as well. So that's a quick overview of the transportation work that we've conducted, and certainly I'm happy to respond to any questions as they come up tonight. Thank you for your time.
Mark Cirillo, landscape architect.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mark Cirillo. I have an office in 3 Copley Street in Brookline. This is the 6th project I've done regarding the tree protection permits that are available or necessary for for projects now. And what we tried to do is create the best and simplest and plausible way to move forward with the development. And as we all know, there are plenty of trees on the site, and exactly how would we use that and use them and keep them, and how we would develop it. Basically are two points or two topics I'd like to talk about. One is the landscape design, and the other is the planting strategy. And the planting strategy really is related to a conservation idea versus a preservation idea. Conservation, basically the town has put together the tree permit zoning requirements, and essentially is trying to conserve trees and canopy. And we would like to talk to those issues as opposed to preserving the site in the way that it is now, because we know that there are some folks who are interested in how that will happen. So what this plan, tries to coordinate the strategy of development with the 26 different building groups that are associated along the loop road. Those 26 different building groupings would be part of the strategy for a schedule for development of construction, and also would be part of the strategy for the planting design. And the planting design itself is a tiered concept. As you can see in this plan, there are vegetative areas in the detention ponds, which are the light areas around the edges. There's perimeter vegetation, which is kept within a 20-foot buffer around the site and will be used again for additional plantings. And then there'll be riprap plantings that will occur in the areas where there's changes in grade. And those riprap plantings will be incorporated with a detail using a geotextile fabric, including soil that would allow for planting to be done on the riprap. And then finally, the top edge of the riprap slopes would be a buffer planted for a visual barrier from without the site, and then planting within the site for screening for the individual units. The strategy is mitigation by replacement. And what that means is that we will replace the some 1,800 trees which we had evaluated by an arborist, and basically is about 18,000 caliper inches or diameter breast height on the site. We will replace that with an additional amount of trees. And what's interesting is that you can do replacement by either size or location or quantity. So when you look at how you would do a planting list and how you would do a planting plan, part of the idea is to replace the trees that are there. And if they are smaller in size than the initial trees, you're going to get growth over a 10 to 20 year period. Did I do that? Sorry. I'm a little nervous because this is the first time since 2019 that I wore a tie. So I hope that you all really appreciate that. I do because
That's why I didn't recognize you tonight.
yeah, I still fit in my clothes too, which is really good. So that's due to how my wife takes care of me, I guess. But the strategy that we're talking about actually will return 3 times the canopy replacement. Because if you think about the replacement strategy with 3.5 or 4 inch caliper trees, over time, those trees are going to grow to 12 inch caliper, and that's 3 times the amount of caliper inches that are actually on the site right now. So I applaud the town in putting together a zoning bylaw that deals with these conservation issues and emphasizes that. There are, can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So what we did was a test, and this is a preliminary analysis. It's not final, but it looks at, based on the criteria that I've used on other sites, we came up with a plant list, and you can see that on the left-hand side. I know you can't read it, but let's just say that the green writing is evergreens, and the red is deciduous trees. And so there's a balance of deciduous and evergreen, and the total trees then are distributed on. Can we go to the next slide? We'll go back to this one. No, next one. Yeah, there you go. The trees are distributed in each of these 26 building groups. And in looking at the strategy of how you would plant these 26 building groups, you can break it down by simply dividing the required caliper inches that would be necessary to mitigate by the size of the trees, and organize those by the types of vegetation that we would use, and then ultimately put it together in a plan and a design. So this is one area that has two types of planting shown. The first type is this top edge buffer, recognized by these darker colored trees. And then within the context of the building groups, there would be additional planting that would be for screening the units side by side. So if we can go back. Yeah, that's good. So what you see on the right-hand side of this list are the 26 different building groups and types of trees distributed within the context of each building group. And as a result, creating a more biodiverse opportunity than what is existing right now. So in looking at the 5 values that were discussed in the Conservation Commission's letter, the first was biodiversity, the second was erosion control, the third was mitigation to rainfall, the fourth was extreme heat, and the fifth was exposed ledge. If we take these individually, I think biodiversity is dealt with regard to the tiered planting, the canopy replacement, and the potential for 3 times the growth at replacement trees that are put in at 3.5 inches. So the idea here is that over the course of time, these trees would grow and create a replacement canopy. In addition to that, 50% open space is required by the zoning bylaw, and we are providing 66%. So I think that in terms of biodiversity, we meet some criteria, but again, we meet the criteria of biodiversity in terms of conservation, not necessarily preservation. So we have to just keep that in mind. And we have to realize that the best and simplest and plausible solutions are not necessarily always agreeable to everyone. With regard to items 2 and 3, erosion control and mitigation of rainfall, I think that they've been covered fairly adequately with the engineering that's been explained on site with regard to drainage, erosion control, and mitigation. Extreme heat. When we talk about replacement canopy, right now, there are 1,800 trees on the site. we are going to replace those 1,800 trees, or a good portion of those trees, with 3,000 trees. So that's 3 times the canopy potential over the course of 10 to 20 years. And that's the most important thing to think about in terms of the conservation idea related to this bylaw and how planting makes a difference. By planting it makes a difference. With regard, and I think that that really addresses the issue of extreme heat, because we are talking about canopy replacement and tripling the canopy potential. In terms of exposed ledge, I think that's part of what we would like to do in terms of our design with regard to bringing the geotech fabric out in front of the riprap and using that to hold soil, and then plantings that would mitigate that edge. So what we've done, you can go to the next slide. No, there should be one before. That's the one. If we could blow that up, maybe you could. What I've done is I've taken and compiled the tree data that we received from the arborist, and we've looked at it from the standpoint of, I'm going to try and read off my own sheet here, so I can't see that far. We have about 5,440 caliper inches of dead and decayed trees, according to the arborist, 460 calipers of Norway maples, which are an invasive species. And if we look at the caliper inches requirements for trees 9 to 20 inches, which would be a 1-to-1 replacement, we then have 191 trees which are larger than 21 inches, and that would be a total of 7,109 caliper inches. So essentially, if you look at that figure of 18,180 caliper inches and you subtract this sorted information, we come up with a figure, and we divide that by the potential size of the replacement mitigation planting. And that gives you the number of replacement trees. So we're looking at roughly 3,000 trees. And we can break that down further when we look at each building group. So we can look at what the caliper inches would be required for each of the 26 building groups. And we can even break that down into how many trees you should be able to plant for each townhouse that we are building. And those numbers really relate to, in terms of the building groups, 135 trees. And in terms of each townhouse, it would be 51 trees per unit. So the issue here and the strategy behind it is to plant with the development of each of the building groups, and to replace the trees with that commitment of finishing the construction in those areas. So I'm going to leave you with one thought, and well, let's go through a couple of plans. We just flipped through these plans. These are 16 plans with some are doubles, but they essentially show the planting that is on or up for each one of the different building groupings, and how the buffer would be set up, how the imaging would be set up, and that can be traced back to the actual plant list that we looked at before, if you have the opportunity to do that. So when we get down to the bottom, if there's any question related to what we're going to see, I could leave you with the following. I could say that in the foreground, you will see the buffer, and that's the perimeter buffer of the site. And if you look up in the middle ground, you'll see the riprap and you'll see the planting that is going to be distributed in various areas along the riprap to try and green that area. And then finally, the background of that image would be looking at the tree canopy, which is along the edge of each one of the building groups. So basically, we're trying to use the idea that the design concept and the strategy of placement, can bring about a reasonable project. Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Thank you. I know that was a very, very short presentation. So we will open it up for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. What I think I would rather do than do that right now is hear from planning and their peer review and then the public, and then we'll do some questions between the public and when we bring it back into committee. But thank you. And it was actually just a little over an hour, Mr. Lee. Planning?
Yes, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to share my screen. So we have two petitions associated with this project. We have 216-25, which is the request to rezone 3 parcels along Dudley Road and the 32 Brandeis, I think that's 132 Brandeis Road, from single residence to multi-residence 1 zone. And then petition 217-25 is the special permit accompanying the rezoning to construct 70 single-family attached dwellings with dimensional waivers. This site is comprised of 3 lots and is located within single residence 1 and single residence 2 zoning districts between Thompsonville and Oak Hill, just 500 feet south of Route 9, or Boylston Street, as shown on the map. Dudley Road is comprised of longer, at times narrow, lots ranging from 25,000 square feet to 598,341 square feet, which is one of the subject parcels. The site's topography varies and is such that from the Dudley Road frontage, there is a steep downward slope into the site, about a 22% decline. The property then slopes upwards towards the middle of the site. It then slopes downwards again towards the Brandeis Road frontage. From the midpoint of the site also slopes downwards to the side property lines, approximately 20 feet downwards to the east and 40 feet towards the west. The petitioner proposes to rezone these 3 lots to the multi-residence 1 zone to construct 70 units of townhouse-style new construction in varying configurations of 2 to 4 unit buildings while maintaining the single-family home that exists at the Dudley Road frontage for a total of 71 units. Vehicular access will be provided via Dudley Road with a driveway that splits to form an oval-shaped road with 26 of the buildings of new construction lining the road. The project covers most of the site, meaning the existing conditions will need to be significantly altered to accommodate the construction of this project. The project requires a significant amount of regrading, ledge removal, and tree clearing. The project, as proposed, will still feature topographical changes, sloping downwards from west to east and north to south. The special permit relief requested under the Newton zoning ordinance is as follows: to allow single-family attached dwellings, reduction of the side setback, exceed the maximum allowed building height, to allow 3 stories, to allow retaining walls 4 feet or greater in height, and to allow the cash payment in lieu of providing 12 affordable housing units within the project. The height section of the zoning ordinance was updated this council term to prevent manipulation of the grade, thus requiring building heights to be measured from the lower of either the existing or proposed grade. Planning notes that due to the topographical variations of the site, the heights of 15 of the buildings and the existing dwelling require special permit relief to exceed 36 feet in height. These buildings are measured from the existing / original average grade, as that is the lower of the 2 points between existing and proposed grade. As such, these buildings range in height from 38.35 feet to 53.97 feet as the measurement is taken, where 36 feet is the maximum allowed. When reviewing this request, the council should consider the 4 standard special permit criteria, an appropriate location for the project, whether it will not adversely affect the neighborhood, whether there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, whether access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. The council should also consider the retaining wall criteria and the inclusionary zoning criteria. So the retaining wall is whether the lot presents challenging topography, which limits the use of the property such that it could not be improved without the implementation of the retaining walls over 4 feet in height. Whether the combination of retaining walls over 4 feet in height will not adversely impact adjacent property, the neighborhood, or the public, and whether these retaining walls is the minimum structure necessary to allow the property to be reasonably utilized. Regarding the request to contribute to the inclusionary zoning fund, the council needs to make the finding that there will be an unusual net benefit to achieving the city's housing objectives as a result of allowing a cash payment rather than requiring the development of inclusionary units. The finding must include consideration of the appropriateness of the development site location for income-eligible households, including proximity to and quality of public transportation, schools, and other services, and the current balance of the inclusionary housing fund and the purposes of the inclusionary zoning ordinance. In 2022, the city issued an expression of interest for the subject property, also known as the Dudley Road Estate, to solicit development proposals. City-specific interests were identified as development of a cooperative property plan, which enables significant open space conservation, tree preservation, and the protection of wildlife habitat. Exploration of cluster development to maintain cohesive undisturbed areas for conservation and passive recreation purposes and protect environmentally sensitive features. Opportunities for affordable housing beyond the city's required inclusionary zoning. Support of the city's goals for upholding and furthering diversity, equity, and inclusion. Reservation of a to-be-determined portion of the property for future use for school or recreation facility needs. A conceptual development proposal was selected that focused development within the middle to lower portion of the site, consisting of 22 buildings with 3 to 6 units each for a total of 75 to 125 units. Additionally, 2 proposed single-family homes were included along the Dudley Road frontage. The conceptual project avoided development on areas with a steep slope and left an adequate amount of open space available. While the prior plans have no relationship with this project, the parameters set forth by the city are a useful tool in evaluating the merits of this project, along with the special permit criteria. I'm now going to kick it over to the city's on-call consultants. They're in the audience. It's just easier than playing musical chairs up here. So first we have Dominic Rinaldi for a presentation of BSC's review on site design and stormwater, followed by Amy Allen, who will cover the transportation peer review report, and then I will conclude the planning department's remarks after that. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Dominic Rinaldi, senior civil engineer with BSC Group. We performed as Katie said, the site and stormwater peer review. If I may share my screen. Make sure I do this right. Yeah. Doesn't do slideshow. Oh, there it is. All right, so again, this is the site design and stormwater peer review. I promise I will be quick, and I will try not to get too stormwater techy unless you want me to later. Quick agenda, quick project overview. I'll at least show you the documents reviewed and the review criteria, and then we sort of broke up our letter, which hopefully you have dated August 21st, 2025, into sections encompassing the site plans, Newton stormwater management and erosion control rules and regulations, and then the Mass DEP stormwater standards. I think the project has been overviewed plenty very quickly from a stormwater management perspective. They went over it in detail, but there are 2 infiltration basins sort of on the edges of the site, call it the back edge of the site. 1 detention basin in the middle of the roadway, and a series of 12 subsurface dry well systems spread throughout the site adjacent to various buildings. These are the documents reviewed that were provided to us, as well as the review criteria of various city regs, as well as DEP's standards. And we always include sort of what we call standard engineering practices. For the site plans, a couple of these were actually addressed in the applicant to some degree in the applicant's presentation. As they mentioned, they are proposing a walkway to the high school in the back. A couple of our points on that were just ensuring that any access agreements, whether with the city or with the private property, are put in place. There is a fence there currently. The fence being open, is it going to be gated? It's a little unclear from the plans how that's going to work. And as they mentioned, there is a set of stairs at the end of that walkway. So it's clearly not an accessible path. We would request that the applicant look into if it's required to be an accessible path under the law, and if it does need to be, obviously, to revise that to get it in place. The landscape architect did just talk a lot about the steep slopes. Katie mentioned there's a lot of grading on this site, a lot of steep slopes along the edges. You can see them in these hatches here, up to 1.1.5 to 1 slopes. We did ask, at the time it wasn't clear that they were looking to plant those. If they are looking to plant those, that may be the resolution. But while I know the city has restrictions on retaining walls, this is a spot where retaining walls or a series of terraced retaining walls could potentially reduce how far out that disturbance has to go to meet existing grade, and also provide some terraced areas that could be landscaped. And then regardless of what they do, there were no details on how those slopes were really going to be finished in the plans. And finally, that detention basin in the middle, the applicant had mentioned the maintenance access that they're providing down to the infiltration basins on the side. There does not appear to be anything similar for that detention basin. It's fairly deep, and there's very limited access around it. Detention basins need to be maintained over time, whether that is sediment removal or vegetation maintenance and things of that note. As I said, it's a fairly deep basin, and it is right in the middle of a bunch of residential buildings. So there does not appear to be anything on the plans that would prohibit a resident from accidentally or intentionally going down into that basin, which could obviously pose a danger. Through the course of this, we'll also note some things that are not questions, but we do believe they have met local or state requirements. Amongst that is they did provide detailed photometric plans and lighting details that are in conformance with the city's requirements. So moving on to the Newton Stormwater Management and Erosion Control Rules and Regulations, these are sections that, again, we do find them based on their design and calculations to be in compliance with. They're infiltrating 2 inches of runoff. One of the basins does absolutely provide 2 feet of separation of groundwater. They've provided runoff calcs for the appropriate storms using the appropriate rainfalls and using curve numbers, which is basically a description of what the surface is. Generally speaking, the higher the curve number, well, generally nothing. The higher the curve number, the more runoff you get. And the city does have a requirement that you use what's called a good condition. Some have various ratings. And they have provided thorough calculations showing that they'll meet the city's 60% total phosphorus removal. A few questions we had on those regs. These are things that are probably very easy in my mind to calculate, to determine or revise. A lot of I dotting and T crossing. Section 5A5 requires a 1 foot of separation from seasonal high groundwater at the bottom of the building slabs. It's not clear if they have that. They also don't necessarily have test pits in all of the requirements that these city regulations would require. As part of those test pit requirements, the city also requires test pits that are performed, I believe it's from June through February. They do what's called a Frimter analysis. Basically, June through February, as you can imagine, are when groundwater is not expected to be at its highest. So if you dig a hole and look for groundwater, you might not see it at its highest. So a Frimter analysis is basically a calculation that compares your on-site observations to these indexed USGS wells in the area in similar soils. And there's a calculation where you can make an adjustment and figure out where your seasonal high groundwater actually is. They did not provide those Frimter analysis. Those drywall systems I mentioned are less than 10 feet from some of the buildings as required. Something to point out is they did request a variance, again, back to the very steep slopes. The city has a requirement that basins be at least 50 feet from any slope steeper than 15%. They've requested a variance from that, and how they plan to mitigate it is to provide an impermeable barrier in the berms of these basins, which generally is a good plan, but they did not provide any details on how those berms would be built and what the impermeable barrier would be. So we've requested that. A few more questions on the rules and regs. They require an evaluation of LID. It's low impact development techniques. Think more natural management of stormwater and why they did or did not select them. We requested that narrative. I'll quickly do this one. There's for infiltration, BMPs and stormwater, there's a requirement that they empty in 72 hours after the storm. Basically, that is to allow that volume to be back there for the next big storm event. And over the course of time, you would maintain recharge to groundwater. There's a few items there. I won't get into details on this. It comes up a little later in more detail that they need to provide. And finally, on the question side of things, the city has a 90% TSS removal. It's total suspended solids. It's water quality. Think soils floating in the stormwater. They did provide calcs showing that they meet that standard, but as one of the ways that they do that is by using a proprietary system. So it's I don't know if you're familiar with things like Storm Scepter and things like that, but they're basically effectively manholes that swirl the stormwater as it goes through and help draw those suspended solids out. Very common practice, but they used an 85% removal rate for that proprietary system. DP has issued a number of years ago a methodology because those systems are based on flow rates. They're sized based on flow rates, and TSS removal is based on volume. So DEP has a standard calculation to convert that volume to a flow rate to make sure those systems are sized right. So we've just asked them to provide that. These two items are what I would call potential issues. These are maybe a little more detailed, may require a little more effort to provide the information needed or make some revisions that might be needed. So infiltration basin C, which is the one, I believe this is the southwest corner of the site. I believe north is page left. They have a series of test pits in there as they need to. And some of these test pits appear to show groundwater and or refusal, which may on this site likely be ledge, higher than the bottom of that basin. Obviously groundwater, they need to maintain at least that 2 foot of separation from seasonal high groundwater at the bottom of the basin. And obviously trying to recharge into ledge is not that feasible. So they need to look into that. And this 72-hour drawdown thing again. So as part of that, they've provided as they needed to what's called a groundwater mounding analysis. So basically, as water comes out of the bottom of these systems, you can imagine you get as it spreads out in all directions, you get a temporary mound. So literally a hump of groundwater under these systems. This groundwater mounding analysis determines how big that hump, how high up it comes. Their calcs actually show that mound coming close to 7 feet high. They don't have 7 feet of separation of groundwater, which means that mound is going to reach the bottom of their infiltration systems, and those infiltration systems won't be able to infiltrate at the rate that they're proposing. And therefore may or may not, that needs to be determined, actually empty within the 72 hours. So they need to take a look at that. Sorry if I'm going very quickly. Moving on to the Mass Stormwater Standards. Again, these are the standards that they're either in compliance with or aren't applicable. We agree with them on their compliance and or not applicable. I won't run through all of these for the interest of time, but I can certainly address them later if you'd like. Couple of questions on the stormwater standards. Stormwater standard 2 involves pre and post development peak discharge rates. Basically, you develop a site, you put a bunch of pavement and buildings down where there was woods and grass, you get more stormwater runoff. They did very thorough calcs. Most of the information in them we totally agree with. Just a couple of small items, which again, they may have addressed this first one. They used a curve number so that, again, that surface condition of, they didn't have anything that represented the riprap slopes, and it appeared from their design that they had a bunch of riprap slopes. So if they are planting those slopes, that may be the answer. If it is going to be stone, you'd expect more runoff off the stone than you'd get from grass or woods. And then this one is very techy, and I apologize, but it's in the time of concentration calcs, there's a variable. They chose woods with dense underbrush. Years ago, DEP issued a document where they stated that that is not an appropriate condition in Massachusetts. They should be using woods with light underbrush. It'll change their numbers slightly. They might have to make a small tweak to the design. I don't see it as a big issue. Standard 4 is that proprietary treatment, similar to the Newton regs. And standard, standard 4 is water quality. Standard 8, which deals with construction period, erosion and sedimentation controls. I think they at least started to address that in their presentation. It appeared in the plans that were submitted that this whole site was going to be cleared as one big mass clearing, blasted, excavated, etc. But then there were some notes in there that kind of sort of indicated that it might be phased. So we're trying to figure out if it's going to be phased. If it's not currently planned to phasing, would the applicant be amenable to phasing this site? Obviously, the larger a construction site you're dealing with, the more disturbed surfaces you're dealing with, the harder it is to manage that construction period stormwater, and the more likely you are to end up with erosion issues and the potential for sediments to escape off-site either into a downstream wetland or a neighboring property or a street, none of which are great. And finally, Stormwater Standard 3, which deals with recharge to groundwater. Again, it's that same, those same two questions we had about separation of groundwater in the Southwest Basin and groundwater mounding in both basins. So I promised I'd be quick. I don't know if you want to do questions and answers now, or if you want to move on to Amy and then come back to it later.
Yeah, I'm hoping everyone is taking notes of their questions so we can do the questions at the end of all the presentations. But thank you very much, Mr. McNulty. And I was a sucker for some of that stuff.
I'll get super techie later if you want. This is stormwater is my thing, so.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Amy Allen, traffic engineer with BSC Group. Gonna just share my screen. All right, so I'm gonna probably skip a lot of the stuff in the beginning that's already been covered by the applicant's traffic engineer. I don't want to repeat anything that they've already gone over. So a quick agenda, project overview, study area. I'll go into some of the traffic data, trip generation and distribution, capacity analysis, discussion about the driveway site distance, and then some additional comments we had, including on the traffic calming memo and the site plan review as it relates to transportation. Sorry. Project overview has been over this many times now, 70 units. Well, 71 if you count the existing house. Access will be from the existing driveway. And the review that I'm going to be going over focused on the site access and the circulation. These comments were provided to the applicant on August 13th, and it does sound like they've had a chance to review them and start to address them. So we look forward to those responses. The study area, this has been gone over. 2 signalized intersections were looked at and 6 unsignalized intersections. Dudley Road is a 2-lane roadway. The posted speed limit is 20 miles per hour. The traffic data collected along Dudley Road showed a weekday volume of about 2,200 vehicles. Morning peak hour close to 200 and evening peak hour was 280. And as mentioned before, the 85th percentile speeds were 32 and 30 miles per hour in the northbound and southbound directions, which is obviously higher than the 20 mile per hour posted speed limit. For the trip generation, this has also been gone over. So land use code 215 for single family attached housing. We reviewed the description of that land use and we found it appropriate. We double checked the calculations and we agree with the 33 trips in the morning and the 40 trips in the evening. There was so the city of Newton in general, that you do have not a significant, but there is a percentage of people who take public transit or walk or bike to work. In this case, the mode share reduction was not applied because there's not really many pedestrian accommodations to the site. So that provided for a conservative analysis. And also my understanding is that a previous iteration of this site plan used 74 residential units. And as was discussed before, it's now down to 70 units. These estimates were based on that 74 units. So even these we found to be a bit conservative. And they distributed those trips onto the roadway network using census data from Journey to Work surveys, which we also reviewed and concurred with that methodology. And then also, as the applicant discussed, there were negligible impacts to most of the study intersections. The one exception that we found in reviewing the analysis results was this one signalized intersection of Parker Street at Route 9 eastbound, where there was a 26-second delay for the southbound approach, increase in delay, for the southbound approach, and then an overall intersection delay increase of 14 seconds. So we just recommend looking at the signal timing and seeing if anything can be tweaked just to get those delays down. And based on what the applicant said, it sounds like they're looking into that and they think that that might be feasible. So we'll review that when it comes in. As far as the site distance from the driveway, we do concur that the minimum site distances are provided. Based on our measurements, we got a slightly different measurement for the intersection site distance. However, we believe that this could be addressed by just trimming back some of that existing vegetation. As you can see from the photo on the screen, this was taken from the driveway looking right. So we recommend that some of that vegetation right along the frontage at 85 Dudley be trimmed just to get a little bit longer line of sight exiting the driveway. Some additional comments about we requested that the applicant include discussion of transportation demand management strategies, something that the city generally requests on all developments like this, and we found to be missing in this case. We concur with the recommendation that speed humps in combination with speed feedback signs would be appropriate traffic calming measures for this roadway context. We noticed that there are also some horizontal curves on the road that we think could be better marked for visibility to try to prevent some of those run off the road crashes on the horizontal curves. So that's something we recommend be looked into. And then lastly, taking a look at the site plan from a transportation access perspective. We requested plans showing emergency vehicle access and circulation using the City of Newton fire engine. I know they showed a figure showing the trucks circulating throughout the site. We requested an additional figure showing an emergency vehicle accessing that existing single family home now that the geometry of that driveway is going to be changed a little bit. Another thing was we requested calculations and figures for site distance internal to the site. So there's one proposed crosswalk. We just wanted to make sure that the minimum required site distance is provided at that crosswalk to make sure that it's in a suitable location for pedestrian safety. And then also at the horizontal curves internal to the site, we would just like some calculations or figures showing that the appropriate site distance traveling around those curves is available. And also the crosswalk within the site, we recommend that the markings be changed to be this high visibility markings to be more consistent with the city standards and also just for better visibility in general, as well as the installation of warning signs at that crosswalk, again, for increased visibility and safety of pedestrians. We had some other minor comments just about sign placement for some of those no parking signs and then one of the speed limit signs within the site. So I think, yep, that was the last comment we had. And so, yeah, we're awaiting the responses from the applicant and we're ready to review them whenever they come in. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I just have 2 more slides if that's okay to.
Oh,
wrap
yeah.
up. Oh, sorry.
I was just thanking her.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Doesn't mean we're done.
Thank you. Just want to close it out. So yeah, so to close it out, the planning, and yeah, thank you, Amy and Dominic, for those presentations. So the planning memo outlines several concerns with this proposal. This slide shows the environmental concerns around the project. The ecological impact, the Conservation Commission is advocating for a more ecologically sensitive development. Tree removal, the petitioner has not engaged the tree warden. Further additional information is requested on the number of trees that will need to be cleared to construct this project. the overall constructability of the project, the methods to construct this project, such as blasting for ledge removal, and the challenges constructing this development on such a steep slope, proposed riprap and/or retaining walls, as well as the impact on abutters. More information is requested on whether a phased approach is planned if this project would be approved. Next, we have planning and policy concerns. So does this project align with the planning goals in the comprehensive plan and the expression of interest for the property? The inclusionary zoning to allow the cash payment instead of providing 12 affordable homes on site. How does this meet the criteria of an unusual net benefit? And then lastly, conflicts with recent legislation from the City Council. This project, as proposed, clears an inordinate number of trees, requires a significant amount of regrading, and requires relief to exceed the maximum allowed height when measured from the original grade, which was put in place to prevent grade manipulation. Revisions and updates to both of these ordinances have been adopted in this council term to remedy the issues that the project has incorporated into their development. That is all we have, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Whewell, and the peer reviewers. I'm going to remind us all that we're being mindful of the time tonight. It is a little after 9:20. I often get requests to please end by 10, and I say I can't promise that, but I understand why we want to do that, because people don't think so clearly after then and people get really tired. So the next two parts of this meeting are we're going to go to the public. And before you start to raise your hands or come to the microphone, you will have 3 minutes tonight. Nothing is going to be resolved tonight, so this is the first opportunity. Those of you who want to speak will have more opportunities, and it might even be better later. But I see somebody already lining up, and anyone on Zoom, raise your virtual hand, and we will go to the public. You can be right behind him. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Hi, good evening. David Hedison, 215 Waverly Ave, and the topic is inclusionary housing. So I want to say what a beautiful development. This is a beautiful high-end place to live with a beautiful canopy, elevators. And, the question is asked, is this appropriate? Is this an appropriate development for the income eligible people? Well, I'd like to just make sure it's really clear that income eligible people that would be living in the affordable units would be earning between $115,000 and $170,000. So to the 400 employees in the city of Newton and a number of kids that live in the city that can't afford to buy their first time home ownership unit, this is your opportunity to shine. And if you need public transportation or that you want them to consider something special you need versus the people who are buying the $3 or $4 or $5 million units, let these people know. So I want to just take another moment and say you're asking the developer to look at the cost of these units and the high home ownership fee. As an affordable housing professional, these units, based upon Executive Office of Housing Livable Community numbers, would be selling for about $230,000 to $345,000. And this takes into consideration a home ownership fee of about $1,300 a month to $1,500 a month. These would be units that would take into consideration the high cost of the home ownership fees. And I just want to share one more thing with you. When we talk about this wonderful payment in lieu of affordability, council indicated it was going to be about $8 million, the largest amount ever. I served on the JPEG for the Walker Center, and that $8 million we can take and we can do the Walker Center and get about 8 units. 8 units instead of 12 home ownership here. Does that sound like an incredible benefit? Not to me. So if we look at that price of $250,000 per affordable unit and it gets sold actually at market rate, that's about $3.5 million per unit that should have sold for about $250,000. The actual net proceeds to this developer would be about $40 million. So to give $8 million for affordable housing on another site and allow the developer to have 40 million more concerns me. I don't see a great benefit. And if the city finds the coffers low in affordable housing development, community preservation can bond They did it for Webster Woods. They can do it if there's hundreds of units ready to be built that are affordable. We can find the funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hedison.
I saw some eyes glazing over during the presentation, so I'm going to keep this at a higher level. Can everybody hear me?
Just let us know your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Keith Moscow, 190 Dudley Road, Newton, Mass. I'm an architect with over 35 years of experience. I'm a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. I grew up on Dudley Road and am now manager of 3 properties on the street on behalf of family members, which include my grandparents' house that has been owned for over 53 years, and my parents' home where my siblings and I grew up for 63 years. One of the properties, 190 Dudley Road, consists of 6.5 acres. 136 Dudley Road consists of 3.25 acres, and 128 Dudley Road consists of 1 acre. All currently have 1 single-family residence on the properties. All will eventually be sold. In fact, 136 Dudley Road is going on the market within a few weeks. I believe strongly that adhering to zoning preserves the character and nature of the road in the neighborhood. The project presented for 85 Dudley vastly exceeds the allowable zoning, and the resultant traffic of 70 units of housing on the road will be detrimental. The 85 Dudley Road project with 70 units of housing will mean more than triple the amount of housing currently in the neighborhood. I'm especially concerned about the additional traffic on Dudley Road, a road that does not meet current building department, Department of Public Work guidelines, and does not have sidewalks. There are already large and lengthy backups onto Route 9 caused by the existing traffic. This project will greatly exacerbate the problem. I would advocate that the number of 70 units of housing this proposed development should be scaled back to a more reasonable number to accommodate the neighborhood and existing narrow road. There is also a good argument to be made to keep one of the few remaining open spaces within Newton as it exists. As a citizen and an architect, I do understand the need for added housing in a desirable city and neighborhood. I understand that this city and you as councilors are also looking at ways to increase the housing in Newton. So therefore, I propose that if this project is allowed in its existing number of units or preferably less units, that the access road to the development at 85 Dudley Road be designed as a one-way private road entering off Dudley and exiting onto Brandeis.
I want to let you know that you're over time if you could wrap up.
However, I was told by the developer that it is not possible. There is a difference between change, difficult, and impossible. Anything is possible. The difficulties presented by the developer in providing for an exit road strategy onto Brandeis Road are all manageable and will not appreciably increase the cost of development. The engineering is clearly doable and can be accomplished with some simple changes to the existing plans that are not extensive.
Thank you, Mr. Moscow.
I have one more sentence.
Okay.
I sent via, or a few more sentences.
Well, you're a little over 4 minutes.
This proposed development will substantially change for the negative this section of Newton. If a one-way road is not adopted as part of the design project, As an owner and representative of 3 homes on Dudley, I do not support the granting of a special permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosco. I want to let you and Mr. Hedison know we did receive your letters also, so we have those in writing, but thank you. Okay. Excuse me? Yeah, yes, as well as the plan. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to some of the people on Zoom who have their hands raised. The first one is Irina.
Hello, can you
Yes,
hear?
we're here. Yes, we can.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'll try to be under 3 minutes. And also, I believe our house on the smallest land parcel along the Dudley Road. We are at 10 Stonewood Drive.
But just let us know your name and address, please.
Irina Kogan. Irina Kogan.
Yes, yes.
It's 10 Stonewood Drive, and both bedrooms face Dudley Road. So we are the smallest one, 2,500. Anyway, I completely agree with Mr. Mosco. It's going to change the community, and the traffic is not going to be bearable, and it's going to be very dangerous. The Dudley Road at the side from Route 9 to Greenwood is actually a scenic road. And we do walk there, although there is no sidewalk. I walked there when our dog was alive. We walked there to the Kennard Park. It was already very dangerous, but with increased traffic, so it's 71 units, okay, 70 units, 3 to 4 bedroom, 2-car garage, 2 parking spaces. You add in 210, between 210 to 180 cars. Anybody who is traveling southbound or westbound, they're gonna go down to Greenwood. That's how the traffic goes right now. And that's gonna create very dangerous condition. I don't think the way how the traffic is proposed to work is actually gonna be safe for the neighborhood. And I completely agree with Mr. Mosco. I don't have any architectural background, but something needs to be done. We need, if this project to go ahead, it has to have another exit. And I'll try not to exceed my time. Do I still have time to talk about environment or not anymore?
You have almost another minute.
Oh, that's wonderful. I remember when there was a development at Kessler Woods and how we got swamped from all the animals that were coming from there. Was it taken into consideration what's going to be happening to all the animals that live there? Because that was terrible when it happened. And this is something that needs to be taken into consideration as well. So it's I don't know how how to express it, but it's going to be very disturbing for the neighborhood. The environmental impact, the ecological impact, all this excessive grading, and then if the stormwater is going to start running, I hope that it's very thought through. But the most disturbing is the traffic, the proposed traffic. That's just plain dangerous because we have bikers without sidewalk, we have very narrow street, and it's dangerous to walk there now.
Thank you very much. I think we definitely got all your issues. I appreciate you speaking. Thank you.
I might not be as eloquent as Mr. Mosco, but that's basically the idea.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I have a question. Are we going to have community meetings? Because I only learned about this 2 days ago.
We will ask that question of the petitioner when we get to the question. So thank you for asking it. We'll be talking about that. Next up is Marcella Burke.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Ms. Kelly, councilors. My name is Marcella Burke. I live at 255 Adams Street in Olanto. I heard the man say that we should give 12 of those multi-million-dollar homes to people who simply can afford to live in them. As someone who struggles to be able to live here, that just doesn't make any sense to me. For people like me, it's not essential to live in a multi-million-dollar house. Instead of putting 12 families into fancy houses, they can't afford it. Let's use the money to help 40 or 50 families be able to live in Newton. We should be open to taking the cash payment instead of the units. Let's use this cash as an opportunity to do the most good and to help as many families as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burke. Sylvia Testa?
Good evening. This is Enrique Testa. I'm using my wife's computer.
Ah.
That's
Go ahead, sir. What's your first name again?
Enrique Testa, 84 Adeline Road.
Thank you.
And I have questions regarding the way this thing is going to be built. I'll be brief. I am downhill from the construction site, and some concerns have to do with not only water after the construction, and I heard the indications made by the peer reviewer from Newton, but I'm also concerned the water retention systems that they will have during construction, as the site without the trees and being blasted will, I'm afraid we're going to get a lot of water on top of what we normally do with the current trees and land there. The second concern I have is the fact that it's going to be extensive blasting in the neighborhood, not only there, but also 528. And we know that where is ledge, there's radon, and our Newton location or area code is in the red zone in the map for radon. And I'm concerned that nobody has ever mentioned this, but if you're concerned about getting lung cancer for non-smokers, that's the main reason. So I'm not sure what the builder is proposing to do to assess that situation. Thirdly, they mention retention walls, but they never show how high the height of these walls, or what they call riprap is going to contain, where it's going to be located, and how it's going to look from the outside. The three calculations that they make, and they mention, the expert mentioned that it's going to be 20 years for the trees to grow. None of the people who buy the houses there will ever see those trees at 20 years. So we have to be cognizant that the trees are going to be quite small for a long time, and that the construction site is going to be a heat sink that will require a lot of air conditioning. That term is going to increase the temperature for the whole neighborhood. So those are my concerns, besides what I already expressed about increasing the water table and the system that will have to collect all the water. And I agree that there's a lot of animals that live there that we are going to be getting into our houses or somewhere else, or they will be replaced eventually, maybe for other rodents that live where humans live. It's not pleasant. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Mr. Testa. Karen?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Kiran Kuchru. I own property at 515 Dudley Road, and I'm very happy to see this project. I feel a lot of people, for a lot of people, Newton has become unattainable, unachievable, and I feel bad. And the people who've been living there, like me, I'm not young, but I'm not ready to go into senior home. For me, for people like that who've lived in the area, they don't want to leave the area, but want to have smaller houses, rather townhouses. I think this is great. And I was listening to a couple of people who mentioned the exit should be on the other street, Brandeis. Isn't high school on that street? That would be nice to have exit there. I'm sure the builder can do something organized to, channelize the traffic in a better way. But all this area is there, and imagine so many people who will get a chance to live there. And I really feel great. And Miss Stumpo has built houses for me, and I am very happy the way she's not like all the contractors. I have nothing but only good to say about her, how careful she is to neighbors. I remember when she was building my first house, that's like a long time ago, somebody had somebody's car was, they said it became dirty because, of the construction at my site. She went and, got their cars washed. I have no problem. And I think I'm very happy if this kind of project can be there. And so it'll be like, the neighborhood. I think a lot of people like older will be able to live well, or even young families who cannot afford single family huge houses. I think this will be great.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kutru. Carolyn Kraft.
Hello. I
Hello.
just wanted Carolyn Kraft at 295 Dudley Road. And I wanted to say that I've met with Lawrence and Vern on a number of occasions in the past year with other neighbors here at Dudley to discuss the project. And I have to tell you, I've been totally impressed with them. They've done an outstanding job of asking questions about the residents' concerns and approaching us. Our biggest concerns were the safety of the road and the trees. And it looks as if they're addressing both issues. And it's about time. It's taken probably 50 years before this street has been given the opportunity to have speed humps. And they're going to give them to us. And for that, I support this wholeheartedly. And I think that their intention is to bring back the ecosystem. Nobody wants to see the forest removed. Who would want that? But I would certainly rather have this outstanding plan be put in place instead of the city putting a tower there to save 50% of the trees. So that's my recommendation. And I feel like they've been very, very thoughtful with the residents here. And also, we did a lot of work as neighbors working at the development proposal on Route 9, and that was a completely different story. They were not forthcoming and were not very helpful. So we'd much rather have people work with us in the community than just steamroll us. So my kudos to the team.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Issy's iPad.
Hi, Izzy Shea, 61 Donna Road. I just want to echo again, the Dudley Road, the safety concerns. As my family and I, we walk Dudley all the time, headed up to the shopping centers. And, I just didn't hear anything except maybe a couple of speed humps here or there and a couple of signs that the drivers probably won't pay attention to, just like they don't now. And really didn't hear anything that made me feel better, at least, about potential improvements to Dudley Road, safety, sidewalks. It's just in our neighborhood on Donna Road. We've been talking about speed. It's been tough to even get at times the stop signs at Greenwood and Dudley to be visible, because the trees and everything get overgrown. So I really didn't hear anything today that made me feel better about what this development, with extra traffic, but also just what's going to happen with Dudley Road, really the entire length. And as somebody that takes it pretty much every morning, I echo what someone else said previously. Trying to get out on Route 9 is a disaster, and especially in the morning. And if you stand there, if you sit there either in your vehicle or you're walking there, to see vehicles coming off of Route 9 to take the right onto Dudley, it's extremely tight. They go into the lane of the cars that are trying to get onto Route 9. I've seen plenty of accidents where, for whatever reason, the driver taking the right onto Dudley Road was not able to make the turn and hit the pole on the opposite corner. And then the only other thing I just wanted to bring up quickly, and I may have missed it, but I did not hear anybody talk about, if this gets approved, what's going to be, how is the construction going to be handled? Where are the construction vehicles going to be going? There's obviously a lot of work that's going to be done on the site work. Where is all that debris going to be going? Is it all going to get routed to Route 9? Is it only going to come off of Route 9? Is it going to head down towards Brookline Street? I just didn't hear anything about that either. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hannah Cross.
Hi, my name is Hannah Cross. I'm the Director of Planning and Development at the Newton Housing Authority. So I just want to speak very quickly from that perspective. I just want to speak about the inclusionary zoning payment that has been suggested by the developer. As I think you know, the Newton Housing Authority receives 50% of all of the IZ payments that are made in lieu of units on site. In the past, the Housing Authority has used these funds to acquire a number of properties that we now rent out as affordable rental housing. And we have also used the funds to support our development efforts. A recent example is that we used inclusionary zoning funds to fund the pre-development expenses for Haywood House, which is a 55-unit affordable housing development that we completed in 2023. While we always support affordable housing anywhere in Newton, we do have current plans for redeveloping our public housing sites with the goal of also creating new additional affordable units on those sites. So if the council agrees to approve the inclusionary zoning payment in lieu, this would be a really instrumental source of funds for the Housing Authority to fund feasibility, architecture and engineering, and other pre-development expenses on a larger development that we would propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cross. Mary Lee Belleville. Ms. Belleville, can you unmute or not? And if you're muted, it means you can't. But have you unmuted her, Cassidy? Okay. Ms. Belleville, speak now. As the hour draws late, or unmute. Oh, there we go. What? No? Are you there?
Thanks. Am I unmuted?
Go ahead, please.
No.
We can hear you.
Am I unmuted?
No, yes, you are unmuted. We can hear you. Oh, you're muted now. There we go. Try again.
Have you unmuted her, Cassidy? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Speak now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, there seems to be some background or reverb, though.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Am I unmuted now? Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Yes, you are unmuted. We can hear you. Oh, not sure where that other voice is coming from.
Forget me.
Try again.
Hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there seems to be some background or reverb, though. Ms. Belleville, is there a TV or something on in the background? Hello? I'm going to give it one more chance.
How about now?
Let's try it. Go ahead, please. Ms. Belville. If this is not working right now, I really, because it's 10 minutes of 10, and I really want to give the Planning and Development Board time to talk if they would like to do that.
Okay, I think I figured out the problem.
Okay.
Can
Are
you hear
ready
me?
to go? Yes.
Okay, apologize for that. It's late and I am tired, but I just have two comments that I'd like to make. I think I align myself with the first speaker. I'm not a big fan of the payment in lieu of in regards to the affordable units. I think, 12 units, which I think equated to about $8 million. I think the issue is more with the way the calculation is made, but I just don't see that as a equitable exchange for what the developer would gain in replace of that. So I just think there's something wrong with how we make that calculation. And I appreciate, I think it was Hannah who spoke last, that, hey, any money that goes towards the housing, the city's housing authority to create more affordable housing is great. But I just don't think that seems like a really good deal for the city. And then the only other thing I wanted to comment on was Katie Wewell outlined something like 5 city goals for this property that came out of the last proposals. And I didn't really see most of those being met. So that's all I wanted to share. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm glad we worked the sound thing out.
Thank you. I appreciate your patience.
I think you're the last speaker for tonight, which is great, though I'm a little perplexed about if we're going to have time for the city councilors to speak. But Kevin, I'd like to ask you, would you like to talk amongst yourselves and now, or would you like to hear any comments from the city councilors before you do any deliberations? Would you like to take some time right now as the P&D board? Happy
Thank
to
you,
have you do that.
I think in view of the time, we would like to, I'd like to entertain a motion to hold the public hearing and continue it at our next meeting on October 6th.
So moved.
All in favor of that? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, I think we still have a little more time on this project, so that was a good decision to make. Let me ask the committee though. So it's like 8 minutes of 10. I don't think we have time for each of us to take a few minutes, but if there are some really imperative things you'd like to say, some specific things that might help the petitioner before they come back to us, very specifically and hopefully very briefly, what I do suggest, we have 3 members of the committee who are not here right now. 2 are absent and Councillor Downs had to leave. And we'll be submitting questions in writing, which is what I suggest we all do between now and the next meeting, is think about the questions, comments, and suggestions, write them down. Let's pool them all and be able to give them back. But if there are some pressing good questions to ask right now, we have 6 more minutes. Councillor Leary, you did have your hand up first.
I really want to think about more of my specific questions, but there were just a few things that came up that I wanted to make the developer aware of. One is that, as Mary Lee Belville mentioned, I'm not a fan of payment in lieu either. And, with the city with the median sales price of $1.7 million, and in this area, it's more like $3.4 million. It's not going towards what getting young families here, and really that's a little bit of my concern. It doesn't meet DEI or a lot of the concerns that were also raised by Ms. Belville. And then I just have stormwater ecological concerns, habitat quality concerns, the riprap versus vegetated slopes, no habitat enhancement, some of the TDM, and then we basically build our schools in flood zones and swamps like we did with Newton South, and I'm concerned about unintended consequences with flooding down there. I'd like to see some parking improvements with that parking lot right there on Brandeis Road. So those are some of my thoughts, and I'm sure I'll have more later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leary. Councillor Lucas and then Councillor Block.
Okay, I have some questions and comments, which I am not expecting an answer tonight. The precise number of trees that are being removed, and I mean precise. In the planning memo, they said there was going to be blasting. Where precisely will the blasting occur? Perhaps we'll see that on a site visit in the future. Is there any guest parking? If so, how much and where? Prefer to see permeable surface for driveways and parking stalls. This is really important because one person on Zoom asked it. What is the number of cars on Dudley Road queuing up to turn right onto Route 9? I worry about that because cars may not be able to make a left out of the site onto Dudley Road. Not a fan of the cash payment at all. I would like to see the units instead. And how, I think Councilor Leary mentioned this, or Mary Lee Belville mentioned this as well. How does this development fulfill the 5 goals that the city outlined in its EOI, not the EIO? So just those are my questions for now. I understand it's late. Thank you, Chair.
So keep track of them, and I will make a suggestion at the end about how we all will submit them together and combine them. Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your goal of closing out this evening in a couple minutes. I just wanted to say to both the petitioner and to the planning department, I found the Newton Conservation Commission memo very interesting, and especially that habitat loss that will result from this project. And I'd really like to learn a lot more about what the current habitat is, what the threats to that habitat would be, both flora and fauna. They mentioned, for example, the loss of ledge habitat, which I don't know anything about, but I suspect I'll be learning more about it. So that's my perspective right at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Block. As you all know, and as I've said a few times, we're going to have more opportunities to go with this. So if there are other comments, what I do suggest is that you all who have been keeping notes, put them in some form, send them to me. I will compile them. I will share with planning, and we will share with the petitioner so that they're prepared when they come back next time to answer some of the questions that we're unable to ask tonight. I have quite a few questions myself, concerns mostly about site design, site planning, all of that. I will put those in writing too. I would just like to say, to reflect some of the comments we heard from the public, the question about a community meeting, will there be a neighborhood community meeting? That's something I think everyone would like to hear about again. I'm sure there perhaps have been some, but as somebody said, she didn't hear about it. Oh, I see another hand up. I'll think about that in a second. And I think the construction management, the CMP, is a good thing that was raised in a couple of different ways about where will vehicles be stored, where will materials, is there timing and phasing of it? I think we would like to hear about that. I'm just bringing that up from the public. Mandana Namir, are you still here and have a question?
Yes, not question, more as we live on 275 Dudley Road. I just want to say Carolyn and I were very involved with accidents on Dudley, getting the community together and trying to make Dudley Road safe. Speed bumps was something that we were working on quite early, and I think city was not agreeable to it. So listening to everything today, I'm actually impressed by the project and pleased to see that the approval of the 3 speed bumps that they are talking about. I think this is a huge step forward, something that we have been trying to get, and to get it approved, it's a big deal. I think establishing a road to connect Dudley to Brandeis would offload some of the traffic and would have a greater impact on safety and accessibility. If this project is to be done, I think the way they presented it is kind of an ideal situation. If we can add the road, I think it would make a bigger impact. But as it is, it's a much better alternative, as Carolyn said, compared to other projects that we have seen. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Again, for counselors and the public, we are going to have a few more cracks at this. Are there any other questions or comments from the land use committee, whether it's process or site topic specific for feedback? Anybody else want to?
I was hoping maybe at the next meeting, Attorney Temple can just clarify the voting threshold for this particular zone change and special permit.
You mean majority, supermajority? How many votes does this have to take? I'm sure Mr. Temple will be happy to clarify that for us next time. Councilor Lipoff.
The hour is late. I don't have questions. I think there's a lot of good history to give on this project as we led up to it. I was on the committee that did that, but I'm not going to do it now. Maybe at the beginning of the meeting, I can give a little lead up.
You too
to
have a
how we
chance
got
to
here.
speak again at another time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
We all do. I think it's 10 o'clock. If we're all happy to, oh, yes, Councilor Farrell.
If appropriate, I would like to move to keep the public hearing open, but also to put a hold on to the next session when appropriate.
Sure, we can do that now. The public hearing would be kept open if we're going to hold. You're making a motion to hold?
Yes.
We can voice vote that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? No. We'll see you all another time. Thank you very much. Sleep well.